Welcome to the Next Big Flip podcast, where it's not just about flipping for profit, but flipping for purpose. I'm your host, LaJuan Diggs, author of The Craigslist Hustle and 20 Years of Flipper. Whether it's furniture, fashion, or just your mindset, we're here to help you take what you have and make it work. From everyday hustlers to unexpected side gigs, you'll hear real stories, real strategies, and maybe even find your next big flip. The one that gets you to your next moment. The next big flip. Let's get it. So online and on TikTok, it says just a cat lady who loves thrifting, helping others, and Taylor Swift. Now, Lauren Williams, does that pretty much sum you up for this season of your life?
Yeah, yes, it does.
Now, look, now speaking of Taylor Swift here recently, I saw a video where you had found 3 Taylor Swift CDs, like at what did you find these at a garage sale or something?
Yeah, so 2 of them were at a garage sale, and then I went to a Salvation Army after going to some garage sales and found the third one at the Salvation Army.
So did you forgive the people who decided to give those CDs away before you bought them?
Yeah, some people just don't have the space for CDs anymore. I get that,
Yeah,
but I'm definitely keeping those for myself as a Swiftie.
that is interesting. Now, Lauren, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you located at and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm located outside of Chicago. I'm in the suburbs in Downers Grove, Illinois. So I mainly do thrifting, yard sales, all of that kind of stuff in the suburb area. But I will venture a little up north and south and into the city occasionally for some additional thrift stores, estate sales, that kind of stuff.
Okay, now what actually led you to wanting to resell or flip or thrift items?
Yeah, so actually, I've always really liked going thrifting. When I was little, my mom would take us to garage sales. We'd sit and get the newspaper, and you'd have to like find all the garage sales in the classifieds. And so we'd circle all of them, figure out all the addresses, and had our little actual map and not a phone. And so we'd drive around to all these garage sales. In high school, I really liked going thrifting for costumes and stuff like that. We had 80s days and stuff. So I would always go to the thrift store for things like that. And then last summer in July, my mom decided she had retired and she wanted to open up a little booth at an antique store and do some reselling of basically like home goods.
Okay.
And it didn't even occur to me that reselling was a thing or that you could make money on doing that. So as I tried to help her with it and got into it, I just started coming across a lot of people doing it online. I had gone on Poshmark and tried to sell my own stuff a little bit when I was in grad school for some extra money. Didn't really go very well just because I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't very committed.
Right.
But as my mom started this venture, I started to get into it. And now I am way more into it than she is anymore.
What?
So that's kind of like what sparked my actual interest in the like finding things to resell and not just necessarily like reselling the clothes I don't wear anymore.
Wow. So you were introduced to it as a child, from what I'm hearing, and you said a few words that a lot of our younger listeners may not know. You said newspaper and
Yeah.
map. They're like, what is a map?
Maps.
Like, don't you mean GPS? No, we had maps back in the day, so that's a lot of fun.
Yes. So just like the whole, I've never been one to be like, ew, that's somebody else owned that or something. I've always enjoyed kind of perusing other people's treasures that they no longer want or find valuable to them. And it's always just kind of like a mystery. So I like that.
That's awesome. Now, where do you usually find some of your best items? Is it like thrift stores, garage sales, Facebook Marketplace?
Yeah, mainly thrift stores. And since I live in Chicagoland and it's summertime now, I've been able to do a lot more garage sales, which has been nice because generally, not always, but generally those items can be a lot cheaper than the thrift stores, or you can at least negotiate. In my area, Facebook Marketplace isn't as great for me to source from. Definitely will go on there if I need my own things that I'm looking for.
Okay.
But as far as like for sourcing, it's a lot of people also reselling. So totally get it. understand that, they're trying to run their business as well. So mainly I'm doing thrift stores and garage sales.
That's nice. And as I just backtrack a little bit, because I not only listen to you as the host, but I listen as a potential listener who I'm, broadcasting my episode to. And some fun things that stick out to me about you that you could possibly do in the future. You talked about your mom introduced you to thrifting, and I see a lot of these Goodwill challenges and thrift challenges. How cool would it be to do like a thrift challenge against your mom to see who comes out on top? Like, I will watch it.
I love her dearly, and I'm happy she got me into this, but sometimes she's good at the hard goods, which is kind of like the home decor and the non-textiles, the non-clothing stuff. I definitely dominate the clothing arena
Okay.
between the two of us.
And that's what I like about thrifting. Like, you can find your own niche, and you don't have to just stick to one item. And there are so many different items that you can, choose to buy and resell.
Yeah.
And so even with that, like, I think about how we talked about Taylor Swift earlier, and like she has this massive following, and a lot of people, they could see somebody like a Taylor Swift or Beyonce, and they're like, I could never do anything like that. But when I see individuals like yourself and myself who have, just teaching people how to buy and resell, my listeners can see themselves and hear themselves in your story, and like, you know what, I can go and do something like that.
Yeah, and it's definitely a good hobby to have as well. I think it helps save the planet, helps reduce a lot of emissions and just junk and overconsumption, especially with questions of economy right now. I think it's a really great avenue for anybody to, even if you're not reselling and you're just going to look for yourself, it's a great option to see if you don't need something new or don't need something very specific, to go online or go to a local thrift store and see if they have what you're needing before you make that purchase of something brand new.
And I totally agree. Now, whenever you travel, do you ever visit thrift stores as well? Like, I know a lot of my guests, it's hard for them to vacation because they want to go and visit the thrift stores.
Yeah. So I have gone to a lot of different thrift stores in other areas. The first one being in Washington, Seattle, Washington. They have the largest Goodwill in North America, I believe there.
What?
It was, yes, it was huge. I drug along my husband and one of our friends. I normally don't like bringing anybody with me when I go, because I just want to be able to be there as long as I want, not have to worry about anyone getting bored
Right.
in the store. But we were on a trip in Seattle for football game, a college football game we went to. So we went there, and I think we were in there for 3 hours, and I could have probably spent like 3 more. It was huge. So that one was really cool. I've gone thrifting in Australia and New Zealand. I went there in November for my honeymoon.
What?
So I, of course, told my husband we are going to some thrift stores while we're here. And that was a cool experience, just to kind of see their stuff. They call them op shops
Okay.
instead of thrift stores. So they're called like opportunity shops. So looking for those, they do have like Salvation Army over there. So I was able to find some of those stores. But yeah, I got a couple like cool, vintage pieces of clothing. I got like this suede vest that I kept for myself, for my closet, a couple other things, some t-shirts. And we actually went to Hawaii as well. So I went to some Goodwills in Hawaii. Just interesting to kind of like find different thrift stores and then kind of see the local items that they have from the donations.
That makes sense. And I know one of my guests told me she went to Tokyo and went to some thrift stores and just some of the different items she was able to find. And I said, wow, that's interesting. Never thought about going to different countries and, just different areas, checking out, what they have.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I now do go to a thrift store whenever I travel, as long as I have some time to. I obviously don't buy a ton of stuff, because especially if I'm flying, I try to keep it minimal, but I still just like going to kind of see what new treasures I can find.
That makes sense. Now, how hard is it to keep what you find as opposed to selling it.
It is hard sometimes.
Yes.
That's why I really like looking at men's clothing
Okay.
because I don't keep it for the most part. So I like doing men's and then also outside of my size, because then it's easier for me to be like, okay, I'm not going to keep this because I'm not going to wear it. There has been some things that I have sold. I got a designer purse that I got at a Goodwill. They had a local Goodwill in Chicagoland. It has a designer, excuse me, a designer sale once a year. So I went and got a designer purse for $100. Um, I really wanted to keep it,
Uh-huh.
but the profit margin for that was a little too large for me to be able to just keep that item. So I did sell that one, and maybe I can find another one in the future. But yeah, there's definitely some things that I've decided to at least keep for now, always knowing that if I end up not using it or not wearing it, then I can list it later.
That makes sense. Now, just from your experience, how do you know if something is even worth flipping? Like, do you have any tips for beginners, how to spot value?
Yeah, it's honestly just a lot of practice, like anything else. You just have to go and start feeling the clothing. A lot of it I can just kind of feel if something's new or old based on the kind of um, like fabric it is. Newer clothes tend to be a lot thinner. Older, like 80s, 90s, even some Y2K stuff, that clothing tends to feel a lot thicker and just a lot more durable. There's a lot of stuff to do with it. Does it have a hang tag on the back of the shirt, or is it screen printed? If it's screen printed, then it's going to be like the tag. Then most of the time that's a new item. Not to say it's not valuable. It's definitely still could have some value, but you just have to do a little bit more digging if it's has a screen print tag. So those are kind of the quick things that I do just to see if an item may be worth me looking into. When I first started doing this, I spent a lot of time looking up items on my phone using Google Lens to then find a similar item and then seeing if it's listed on eBay for anything, seeing what it's sold for in places. And it did take a lot of time, but now that I've been doing this for almost a year, I can go through a rack pretty quickly and not take the time to have to look up every single thing I think might be valuable.
That's interesting. So, now I heard you mention that you like to buy men's clothing and resell. Now, how did you do this before you got married? Were you always buying men clothes? Like, how would you know how to pick out,
No.
if that makes sense?
Not generally. I mean, I would go to like the men's section to get like flannels, mainly, like especially in college. You'd wear a flannel over your shirt to the football game or whatever in the fall. So
Right.
I would go to that section for that kind of stuff. But a lot of time at thrift stores, there's a lot more women's clothing than there are men's clothing. And then a lot of the women's clothing, there's so much of it because a lot of it's so much fast fashion. There's a lot of Shein, there's a lot of, Amazon, a lot of just fast fashion brands that kind of overpopulate a lot of the women's clothing. So it just can be a little overwhelming at times to look through all the women's clothing
Yeah.
because there's so much of it. Whereas the men's clothing, I think just inherently men tend to be a little bit more decisive with the clothing that they're buying rather than women just kind of like buying something because it's cute, wear it once, throw it in the Goodwill pile kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I tend to notice that men's clothing is a little bit nicer, less fast fashion, and just easier to get through the racks.
Okay. And that's a great tip. Great tip. Hey, Next Big Flip family, I've got some exciting news. I'm hitting the road for the Next Big Flip Road Show. Over the next few weeks, I'll be visiting some of my amazing guests right in their element, from South Carolina to California and everywhere in between. We'll be thrifting, flipping, and capturing the behind-the-scenes moments you don't get to hear in the studio. You'll get tips, tricks, and real-life inspiration straight from the people making their own Next Big Flip stories happen. Now is the perfect time to hit the subscribe button so you'll be the first to know when the very first episode drops. And don't worry, I'll still bring you great audio episodes for your listening pleasure. But now, you'll also get to see the stories, the smiles, and the flips that keep us all inspired. So get ready, because this journey is all about showing you that your next big flip might be closer than you think. Now let's get back to the interview, where I had a chance to ask Lauren what inspired her to start posting on social media. Now, it's one thing to do what you're doing, but what actually inspired you to start sharing it on social media with others?
Yeah, so I've been kind of trying to figure out a social media niche for a while now. I'm a physician assistant, so I work in medicine. I specifically do a lot of weight management medicine, and I do love sharing those things with people. But it also, on my social media accounts, it was getting to be a lot of burnout for my job to then also create content related to my job. And so I kind of wanted to I like TikTok. I like social media. I like making videos and helping people and sharing things. So once I figured out that reselling has a whole community of people sharing their tips, tricks, their finds, relatable content, even if it doesn't necessarily have to do with like improving your store or improving your reselling game. It was, I just like the community aspect. So instead of doing more medicine after I'm done working 8 hours of medicine, I turned to doing a lot of the reselling stuff. Currently, right now, I am not working as a physician assistant. And so I've been able to focus a lot more on making content because it's a lot of work. It's a full-time job to
Yes.
be able to post all those videos and have quality stuff that you're putting out. So I've been able to just do a lot more of it recently.
Well, I would like to say thank you because I found you through social media, and this is going to help a lot of people who are interested. They may not be interested in sharing on social media, but definitely interested in a side hustle and thrifting and maybe earning some extra income or just a new hobby for them. And so, yeah, I appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, awesome.
And so,
It's a pleasure.
and let me ask you, so what's one flip that you felt like was your next big flip, and not necessarily the most profitable, but one that really helped you to keep going?
Yeah, kind of going back to like the community of it all. I really enjoy actually like, talking to my buyers about things and, seeing like what they're looking for, why they're buying something, just having that conversation. So I could also look out for things for them in the future if it's something very specific or something that they are, really looking for. I had a buyer back in June offer. Send me an offer for a pair of Puma shoes. They were a specific Puma line. It's a power through piece.
Okay.
And so they had the side of them had an embroidered fist, and then around the fist had like rainbow embroider. And so this individual wanted these shoes to be able to be delivered for Pride Fest that was coming up.
Yeah.
And so he had sent me a message saying like, do you think I can get these by Friday? It was like Wednesday night he bought them. So we went back and forth and we ended up changing the shipping so that we could ship through FedEx so we can make sure he got it the next day. And then he sent me like his whole outfit that he was wearing to Pride and showed me like how he had a flag that was also the Power Through Peace movement logo and all of these other things that just matched. The shoes were perfect
Yeah.
for his whole outfit. So that was really cool to be able just to connect with somebody. And that's why I just kind of keep doing it, is because I love the ability to connect with people. I love those stories. It is, yes, like about like making money and stuff too, but I think it's just more about saving something from a thrift store, saving it from the garbage because somebody out there wants it for a specific reason. And I like knowing that reason.
That is awesome. That is a great story. And so it just sparked another question in my mind. And you can plead a fifth. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, because
Oh,
some of your listeners may be people you actually buy presents for in the near future.
okay.
But would you re-thrift? Well, would you get a gift from a thrift store and give to somebody, if that makes sense? Like if you
Yeah.
see something,
Oh,
okay, okay.
definitely. Yeah, I definitely would do that. I'm trying to think if I have a lot. So I haven't necessarily given a gift, I don't think, but all of my friends get one freebie. So if I find something that they like, I say, this is you get this one as long as it's not like, something like crazy expensive.
Right, right, right.
But like if it's, just like I found like one of my friends went to Iowa, like university. I found a Nike jacket. She really liked it. So, I gave that to her. So I always have my friends, they're allowed one freebie out of the things that I find if they see something that they like. Um, but no, I definitely would. And I don't think it's necessarily about the fact that it's being thrifted. I think it's more of the fact that I found something at a store that really would speak to my friend. And I thought about them so much that I bought it and, was able to package it in a way that wasn't like, oh, here's, the Goodwill bag that it came in kind of thing. But there's a lot of creators that do like kind of gifting from thrift stores, and they create like baskets, like a picnic basket or something like that. And so I've seen a lot of those videos too. And I think that that's an awesome idea.
That is. And as I continue to find a lot of these videos, I'm seeing a lot of these awesome ideas. And I'm not sure if anybody has ever done one where they thrifted for Christmas, and not sure if you will be willing to do something like that. That would be pretty
Yeah.
cool to see.
Yeah. There was one girl. I honestly, I don't know who it was. I think I saw some reels on Facebook, but she did 25 days of Christmas, and she did that. She did every single day. She went to the thrift store and found something that you could gift, like kind of just a basket idea or like a category of like, charcuterie board. And then you can find like the cheese knives and all of that kind of stuff. But she did that for all 25 days up until Christmas.
Man, I got to go and find that video. That sounds
Yeah.
exciting to watch.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're early in your thrifting journey in a sense, but not really. But what's something you wish you had knew earlier about flipping that might have saved you some time or money along the way?
Yeah. I think just knowing what you're buying, it comes, like I said, it comes with practice. There's definitely things that I have bought that I ended up unfortunately having to like redonate, or they've had holes in it that I didn't notice, or something like that. So it's definitely just being more aware of what you're buying and not just seeing something and throwing it in the cart right away, but taking the time to actually look at all of the, especially with clothing, like looking at the seams. Are there any holes? Are there any rips, stains? Sometimes you get something home and you don't notice that there was a stain on it, and then that decreases the value of it. Or, sometimes it's not sellable. So just making sure that you're paying attention, you're not letting the excitement of it overshadow the actual goal, which is to be able to, flip the item. So just paying more attention to the quality of what you're getting.
Okay, and that does make sense. Now, in your journey, would you happen to have any book or podcast or social media content creator that has helped you along in your journey?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of content creators, mainly on Facebook, which is probably the only reason I keep a Facebook, is for Facebook groups and for the content creators I follow on there. But Flippin' Philly, they're out of Philadelphia. They have a big Facebook presence. There's another girl, Amber Waves of Brain. She's really awesome too, in her content. So I'm from Northwest Indiana originally, and there is oddly a lot of resellers in Indiana that I have now found. So Bearded Thrifter, he is awesome. He actually came to my parents' garage sale
Yeah, I follow him, and we've
a
been in
couple weeks ago.
contact.
Yeah. So he came to my parents' garage sale a couple weeks ago, and we were chatting. He was looking through some jewelry. So I was like, "Oh, do you do reselling?" He's like, "Yeah, like, I do a lot of whatnot." So he actually got me into feeling more comfortable starting on whatnot. So I've kind of been able to do whatnot a little bit now to get rid of some kind of slow moving stock that I have. But he's great. He's very helpful. Really nice guy in general. And yeah, so like those are some of the creators I follow that give some good tips. I think Surfs Up Finds, they're really good too. K-Way Shop. There's a bunch on Facebook, honestly. Like These are all people who I follow on Facebook, and I think some of them have YouTube channels too. And they just share so many good tips. And especially when you're first starting out and you don't really know what to do or, who to turn to, those are some great people who have some great background in what to buy, what not to buy, what to look for.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. I know I'm gonna go and look up some of these others, and I reached out to Bearded Thrifter, and he's in the process of doing an interview with me here in the near future. So I'm excited
Oh,
to chat with
awesome.
him.
Yeah, he's so nice. Like he is, he lives a little bit south of my parents, but he was really nice to talk to. And I bought some of his stuff on his Whatnot auctions. So yeah, he's a good guy.
Nice. Now, I heard that you like to travel quite a bit, and I do as well. Do you have any bucket list places you look forward to visiting here soon, and maybe checking out some thrift stores at?
Yeah, so hopefully, my husband really wants to go to Japan at some point. We were talking about Tokyo early. My husband collects Pokemon cards. He's a big, like, nostalgia 90s kid. So we would love to go to Japan. Um, and then I also would like to go to the south of France.
Okay.
Just it looks beautiful. I like wine country kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they have many thrift stores in the south of France in the country, but I'm sure they got some cool antique shops there.
Well, if you find a thrift store or an antique shop, please make sure you put it on TikTok or Instagram.
Oh, I definitely will.
And as we get ready to land this plane, Lauren, is there any advice you would give someone who's hesitant about starting a side hustle, whether in thrifting or, reselling? What's one small step someone could take this week to get started?
Yeah, I mean, just start small. You don't have to have a huge shop. You don't have to have a bunch of followers. Like I said, I'm still on Facebook for the Facebook groups, and there are eBay reseller Facebook groups, like for beginners and for thrifters. So those are really good groups to be a part of, especially if you have questions. I would say start with something like Poshmark or Facebook Marketplace or Depop, where it's not as complicated. eBay can get a little complicated with all of the options and shipping and things like that. So start with something that's, pretty straightforward. Poshmark is a great one to start with. Shipping is just the same for every single item. So that's really helpful. But I would start there and then kind of branch out as you start feeling more comfortable.
Thank you so much. And so you heard Lauren say, start small, start on platforms that are not as complicated. So Poshmark and Facebook Marketplace is a good place for you to start. And so this is the Next Big Flip podcast. Let's get it.